All right, it's the Krug Show on a Thursday night. Dieter's in the house. Niners Chiefs. Something's got to give. Spags is talking up Purdy. How good is Purdy? We discuss it all next. Are the Niners going to get any better at the trade deadline? We'll hit that as well. Come with us, one and all. And we get it rolling on the Krug Show Thursday night. Happy October the 17th, 2024.
Damn, that snuck up fast.
That's right. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out, Emeryville, Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And this live stream is sponsored by Betr, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. You're looking at a victorious combination last week. Dieter and I hit on Ayuk, McBride, and Mason. That's right. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Use Betr to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. We did last week. Download the app and make sure you use that promo code Niners, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $200. Thanks to Betr for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, Dieter, what's going on, man? How good to see you. What is that? Red Wings? You got the Red Wings hat? You're a Chicago guy. Wouldn't you have a Blackhawks hat?
I had a lot of Blackhawk stuff for a long time, and then, you can Google what happened with the Chicago Blackhawks a couple of years ago, and I'm out. It was already weird enough wearing a Native American man's head on apparel, and then some other stuff happened that we don't need to go into, but I'm out. Also, my head is so goddamn big, not even metaphorically, literally, that I have to get hats that are not really made by normal standards. This is not just off the production line. So I get a 47 4XL cleanup hat. I don't really get to choose the logos. It's just whatever they have available, and any hockey hat is good by me these days.
Fitted or snapback?
Snapback, and it's holding on for dear life. 4XL. I got a Bochy sized head. Not literally, but pretty close.
You know, I kind of like the stretch fit. Have you tried the stretch fit hat? It's kind of like
absolutely.
It's kind of an in between. It's kind of an in between.
Let me tell you what happens with the stretch fit. Much like underwear on Thanksgiving Eve, they're stretched to the max, and what happens is they just sort of slowly ride up my head. Like, then at the end of the day, I have a Fred McGriff hat going on, where the gap between the hat and the ears is just it's far too much for me. I'm very particular and peculiar about the hats, but I guess go Red Wings. I don't know.
You know, right there, I know that you don't realize how you triggered me and many other Giants fans when you said Fred McGriff.
499 home runs?
The crime dog, if you guys remember.
Yep.
It was a July trade. I can remember it like it was yesterday. The Padres decided to trade Fred McGriff to the Atlanta Braves for, wait for it, not that it was yesterday or anything, Melvin Nieves,
yes,
Donnie Elliott, and Vince Moore.
That seemed even.
And if you say, who are those guys? Exactly. Who are those guys? And then McGriff went to the Braves, and from the day he showed up, there was a fire in the press box. Ted Turner said, today the press box caught fire, and tonight my Braves will catch fire. Unfortunately, it was true, and they won 8 of 10 the rest of the way. They won 8 of 10 the entire second half. They won 104, and the Giants won 103, and there was no wild card.
But at least you're over it.
At least I'm over it. Barry Bonds' first year with the Giants.
That's right.
All right. Niners, Chiefs. And, it's funny. I'm standing there in the locker room today. We're talking to George Kittle. And it just hit me. It's like it's like the Niners have too much respect for their opponent. It's always good to respect your opponent, but that you can over-respect your opponent.
For sure.
Kittle's talking up Kelsey. Kittle's talking up this guy, that guy. Kyle's talking up, Spags. Everybody's kissing everybody's, all this smooching going on. The only guy that I've heard all week that actually sounds like enough is enough and I'm tired of this crap and I want to win is Steve Young on KMBR, who sounded like he wanted to play defensive line and putting his foot in the ground and that's it. We're giving no more quarters. That's the kind of competitor that Steve Young is and definitely was. I'm tired of the smoochiness. I'm tired of the, I know NFL coaches spend a lot of time trying to say, hey, guys, this really bad team's really good. This really bad team's really good. We really got to get up for this really bad team. But the Niners are doing the opposite. It's like, this team's awesome. They're Tony the Tiger, great. And it's rubbing me wrong, man. At some point, I'd love it if somebody in this rivalry would stand up and say, either on the Chiefs side, hey, guess what? We freaking own the Niners, and it ain't that big a game to us. Or I'd like the Niners to be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we've lost 4 in a row and 6 out of 7 to these guys, but it's ending Sunday. We are not losing this. I mean, give me something that says that you don't like each other.
I don't know. I mean, they don't play frequently enough to have true animosity, if we're being honest. Like, I
lost 2 Super Bowls to this team. Be mad. Be mad about it. The Niners are not mad enough about losing. I want to hear them.
What the hell's winning in Week 7 going to do to fix 2 Super Bowl losses? Like,
I don't know.
I think
losing to the Chiefs. I want somebody else to also be tired of losing to the Chiefs
all 4 times.
Yes. I hate Mahomes. I can't stand Reed. Spags is totally likable, it makes things really, really difficult.
Yeah. Do you actually hate Patrick Mahomes, or do you just say that to, I don't know, for appeal?
I do. Him and his wife are annoying.
Well, I'm not saying that they're not annoying, but he's fun as fuck.
I don't know. No, he's not fun. No, he's the opposite of fun. He beats my team every time. He always has the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
That's Kyle's fault.
That's Kyle's fault. I like Mahomes against everybody that's not the Niners. Like,
yes,
Mahomes against Lamar and Baltimore. Oh yeah, I'm all about Mahomes. Mahomes on a typical. I bet the Chiefs against the Saints 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I like the Chiefs. I just don't like seeing the Chiefs beat the Niners.
I get that. But I do want to remind everyone it's Week 7. And that vindication will not be found in mid-October of 2024. Like, this is, and by the way, I think that there's a little bit of truth, or maybe a whole lot of truth, to the Niners sort of, to steal a hockey term, pumping up the tires of the Kansas City Chiefs. They are really good. And they not only have had the 49ers number in recent years, they probably have the 49ers number come Sunday. There's a lot of areas where you go, oh, the Niners are weak there. And, oh, that just so happens to align with the exact spot where the Chiefs are really powerful and impressive. Now, the flip side is true as well in some cases. But the more I look into this game and the more nitty and gritty I try to get into the details of this game, the more I go, buddy, the Chiefs they're really impressive. And if you're someone who can remove the week-to-week angst that comes with being a fan of a singular team, I know that is a big ask, but if you can remove that, man, if you just love football, put on some Kansas City Chiefs tape and get taught, because that's a special operation they got going on there. It would be a big deal for the 49ers if they could win it. It's not going to rectify anything. It's not going to change whatever happened in February. None of that. They don't put up a banner because you won in Week 7. But, man, it would be emotionally resonant if they were able to get over the hump and beat Kansas City here. Now we're off to the races, whereas last Wednesday, we didn't know if this team had a season going into this game. So I do think there's something to that. At the same time, probably a good bet by the 49ers to hedge a little bit and say, well, the Chiefs are really, really good. So if they lose, at least they're not pretending as if, well, we should have won this one, because this is a toss-up, and that might be being overly generous to the 49ers.
There's some great audio, man. Today, today was a phenomenal audio day. I, I'm doing the Niners Nightly on KMBR, and some days I want to do interviews, and then some days I want to take calls and talk to the fans, and sometimes I just want to talk and whatever, make my points, try to sound smart, and then there's days like today where it's like, man, there's all these really cool sound bites, and there. To me, in some ways, in radio especially, sound bites are like where it's freaking at. Yeah. And in YouTube, it's even better because we get video with it. Right. I'm going to share the screen. We got two really good ones. By the way, good to see you, Dieter.
Good to see you.
This has become a very fun stream Thursday nights.
Yeah, I love doing it, man. I appreciate you having me. It's been a blast.
Oh, no, dude, you're outstanding. People love it, and the numbers have been absolutely huge, and we love having you on. But look at this. We'll start with this one from Spags. Spags talking Purdy, and a lot of people were critical of this because he said, I can't find a weakness in this guy. Now, that might be a little buttering him up, but you know what? I think
pump those tires, baby.
I think Spags is pretty authentic, though. Here he is. Here's Spags talking about Purdy, and there's another one after this.
Seems like you played a lot of man that day, that night. Of the benefits of playing man against that particular opponent, what did you see in that?
I think the quarterback's really good against zone and finding those pockets and spaces, and I think the receivers adjust routes to do that. That makes it really challenging in zone. Now, one of the things you got to remember is we had, last year was a little different. LJ was here, and Trent, we had him in a different spot, and so we'll see if we can do the same things. But I just think their system is built that they really can expose zone coverage, and yet I think they got enough skill that if you don't have the right man people covering their men, that can be challenging too. I mean, it's going to start up front and stop in the run, and hopefully we can get the quarterback not to be in timing like he is, because I can't find a weakness in this quarterback. I every time I put the film on, I'm more and more impressed. It's funny, I was watching, you guys will have a better idea of the year. When did we go out there and play in a regular season game? Yeah, and it was at the end of the game, and I think they had taken Garoppolo out, and it was Brock Purdy, and I had forgotten that, but he ran the 2-minute drill and kind of got him down there, and then I think we picked it off at the end. But he looked pretty good then, not like he is now. But I'm really impressed with the quarterback.
That sounds like authentic, Spags, but it is interesting, and he was referencing, this in Super Bowl 58. For those who don't know, the Chiefs came out and they played a mix of man and zone.
They played 60% man, Larry. That was double what they usually play.
Then I should say it actually was higher than that, because when they went man, like there was some zone coverage early, but from when they decided to go, hey, you know what, Purdy's going to carve us like a Thanksgiving turkey, so let's play man. They wound up playing 60.6% man. It actually, if you look at when it was in the game, it probably equates to about 75% man coverage from when they made the switch. Either way, it's the highest man-to-man cover rate for any Kansas City team in the Spags era there. So he saw, and he mentions they had L'Jarius Sneed. They had, Trent McDuffie. And now you got McDuffie out of the slot on the boundary. You've got Sneed in Tennessee. And it was interesting because one of the subplots this week is the injury status for Juwan Jennings.
Right.
And Juwan Jennings did not practice today, and he didn't practice yesterday. And the guy who is practicing and wants to play is Ricky Pearsall. And I asked Brock today about Pearsall in the red zone, and he mentioned how Pearsall is really good against man-to-man coverage. Matt Mayoko said earlier in the week that he believes that the drafting of Pearsall was directly related to the Niners' struggles against man coverage in this
100%.
game against Spags' defense.
100% said that the second he got picked.
What do you think? I mean, these are all pretty interesting coincidences. If they're that, maybe that's not a coincidence.
You're asking the right man, because I've been obsessed with this concept for months, Larry, months. The 49ers, as you noted, just got man-to-man out of the Super Bowl. The offense went to shit. And what have we seen time and time again? It's a copycat league. We've seen it repeatedly. Now, there are some teams that their scheme doesn't really play a lot of man-to-man. Minnesota comes to mind there. But LA, the Patriots, Arizona to a degree, they went man-to-man. They're pressing up at the line of scrimmage, and they are specifically daring one player to beat them in man-to-man because we know Brandon Ayuk can do it, and Juwan Jennings, he might not separate very much, but Brock trusts him and will get tight passes in there. George Kittle's great in man-to-man. Deebo Samuel is laughable in man-to-man. It's really, really bad, and he takes himself out of the game in man-to-man coverage, or they take him out of the game in man-to-man coverage. Deebo Samuel had 6 targets, no catches against man-to-man coverage in the Super Bowl last year. That is the defining stat of not just last year's Super Bowl, but of this season. You go to this year, Deebo is catching like 30% of the passes that are coming his way in man-to-man. It's really, really rough to watch, and everyone is going to copy it. And now you do get the Kansas City defense, which has one of the finest man-to-man cover corners in the league in Jalen Watson. He's unbelievable. He's coming in here. He's going to be pressing on the line. You know McDuffie can do it because he did it time and time again in the Super Bowl. They have a defensive line that is really stout, so they blitz as much as anybody in the league. You play man-to-man behind blitzing fronts. This is the season in a nutshell for the San Francisco 49ers. It's the Super Bowl in a nutshell. And the one thing that Ricky Pearsall can do, as we saw at Florida, where, again, you don't go up against man-to-man all that often, but Pearsall, outside of the top 3 receivers in the class, in Harrison, in Neighbors, there's another one in there, I'm forgetting him. But he was in that, he was just shy. Yeah, he was just shy when it came to man-to-man coverage and doing very well in press coverage as well. This is a guy who separates and gets open time and time again. This is the exact boost the 49ers need. And the idea that he was drafted for any reason other than this is somewhat laughable because they absolutely need a man-to-man beater outside of Brandon Ayuk. And with Brock not even looking Brandon Ayuk's way this season because they didn't have any reps on the practice field, and now especially with Juwan gone, where it's someone that Brock does trust and can at least run crisp routes, even if he's not separating because he doesn't have that kind of athletic ability to go along with it. This is somebody who, if you can spell Deebo Samuel for 10, 15 snaps in this game, it can change not just this game, it can change the entire season because now the 49ers can mitigate what every other team has done to them so far this season to varying results, which is, hey, whenever in doubt, just play man-to-man because it takes Deebo Samuel out of the game. Now you're taking Deebo Samuel out of the game in what would be pretty clear man-to-man situations. You can only guess on that, but I'd imagine Kyle has a much better idea than you or I have on when man-to-man is coming. And you put in a player who can actually win in situations like that, albeit theoretically at this juncture, but I'm pretty confident about that. I think that changes the 49ers offense irrevocably for the remainder of the season, and it speaks to how necessary it is, and it speaks to Pearsall's talent in that regard, that they're even considering playing him on Sunday. This is a guy who is not practiced, save for 3 times now. How much of practice is that actually? Minimal. Didn't get a full training camp, not because he got shot, but because he was injured beforehand. And now they're thinking, oh, man, we might need to rush him out against Kansas City because it's him or Ronnie Bell or Chris Conley. And obviously the answer there is Ricky Pearsall. This is everything for the 49ers. This is the season in a microcosm. I'm fascinated to see, one, if the Niners play Pearsall or not, because I think that's very telling. And 2, if he does play, if he fulfills the mandate that the 49ers set out, not just for him, but for the team in general, when they drafted him all those months ago, because again, this changes the offense irrevocably if you have not 1, but 2 legit man-to-man beaters at the wide receiver position, and specifically one at the flanker spot, which you just have not had all year.
Yeah. Pearsall wants to play this week. He looks like he potentially can play. I think based on what I've seen from him that he looks like a guy that might be able to really do it in the red zone.
Yeah.
Purdy seemed to be encouraged by the idea of going to him in the red zone.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really interesting. The one question I didn't get a chance to ask Brock is how many days did you get of actually throwing routes with this guy? Because if it's just what they've practiced, then it's not very many. But if it's like other days that we're not aware of, then these guys might really be on the same page on a level that will surprise people. And that's my guess, because they looked amazing. They looked like they'd been together for years in minicamp. And I thought,
sense.
wow, look at that.
Well, and the other thing you have to think about too is how this offense has changed. One of the things that I found most positive with the 49ers performance against the Seahawks is how simplistic it was. And I don't mean that to be a pejorative. They went back to the Kyle Shanahan base. We're going to run outside zone, and we're going to run play action from under center on the boot. We're going to be doing the full stretch play action. Jimmy, think about any Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, go down the list of all these guys. They had gotten away from that significantly. They were running more shotgun this season than ever before as to play into what Brock prefers to do. Now, albeit Brock does have the limitations, to go back to Spag's comment, you say, I don't see a weakness. His weakness is that he's 6'1". So he wants to be in shotgun so he can see the field better. No one wants to turn their back to the defense, but you definitely don't want to turn the back to the defense when you have a questionable offensive line and you're not tall enough to see over it. So I get why, but they went back to the basics, and the offense really moved the ball. It put linebackers in conflict for the first time in a couple of weeks here. And when you think about that, yes, then you're getting guys in zone, but you need to be able to beat man-to-man. This team, their wide receivers have 14 catches all season against man-to-man. I can fully assure you that is well under 50% of the overall targets. We talked all the time early in the season about average separation. That doesn't matter to me in zone. It matters to me a whole bunch when teams are doing man-to-man. This data has been out there. Everyone's been copying it. I've been hearing from folks left, right, and center. I guess east, west, north, and south would be a more accurate descriptor on, hey, Niners against man. Is there something there? What's going on? And I've been telling people, well, I don't think it's going to be the case when Pearsall comes into play, because they can throw him in there. And this dude runs sudden routes. He runs crisp routes, and he has a feel for open spaces on the field. You want to know how bad the Niners are against man coverage this year? Think about how shitty they've been in scramble drill. Think about how they can't separate when they have 5-10 seconds and Brock Purdy's running around. What are they going to do when they're actually getting bumped on the line and Brock has 2 or 3 seconds to throw the ball? We've seen it. Now, if you have someone who can win off the line, who can get free releases in some situations, because Kyle can scheme it up that way, I think it's a total game changer. It opens up both sides of the field, and I think it really opens up a lot of possibilities to now bring back in some of the shotgun stuff that Brock prefers to do, which you really shouldn't have been doing because you didn't have the players who can win in man-to-man as you would in the Big 12 and the spread offense. You need man-to-man beaters to run that. They didn't have it, so Brock was trying to throw it into tight windows. If you now have another man-to-man beater, it doesn't change everything massively in the sense of you still have a Deebo Samuel, you still have a Jawan Jennings, but it does give you more of an opportunity to bring that stuff back into the fold. And I like the balance of having both the outside zone under center stuff and then also being able to go into shotgun outside of sort of mandated 4 wide sets because you're in a 3rd and long. So I think it really does open up the possibility of the 49ers going back to being that elite offense that we saw last year. It just hasn't been there because the personnel hasn't been there, and the book was out on how you beat the 49ers with this personnel.
We've teased a little bit about the matchup, so why don't we get to our better segment so we can actually throw some money down on the matchup itself with some of the individuals. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
And, of course, the live stream sponsored by Betr, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. Use Betr to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. We won real money last week. Going 3 for 3. You can download the app below and make sure you use that promo code Niners, Niners, to get your first deposit matched up to $200. All right,
sir.
Let's take a look at what we're looking at with our better options.
Kevin.
It's
like Home Alone 7 here.
There we go. Okay. Let's take a look at Brock Purdy.
Kevin, take the porn off your phone and give us the better page.
Brock Purdy. Let's take a look at what Brock Purdy.
Don't
What
type
we can
Brock
do with
Purdy incorrectly.
The Brock Purdy lineup here. As far as there we
we
go.
are.
Niners,
There we go.
Chiefs. There we go. Okay. So we got to take one from the Chiefs, but we'll go start with the Niners. So let's go with Brock Purdy. Let's see what he's got. I like the one thing about playing man-to-man coverage is that when everybody's covered, the quarterback has to run.
That's right.
So that's, to me, in this thing, you've got, I don't see a rushing. We have no rushing.
Can we get a scroll down there, Kev, or are we scrolled?
That's it.
Wow.
They don't
they
offer
know.
a rushing. They
know.
They know. It's a gimme. It's a gimme against man-to-man coverage.
Well,
So
how about this, Lair?
what do you like
pass,
out of those?
Longest pass 36.5. There is a level of boom or bust to the Chiefs defense because they blitz so heavily. They're very rarely in a full too high shell, right? They're often just leaving Justin Reed back there as the man. And it doesn't matter if you're in man-to-man or zone. If you have an opportunity, if the ball is delivered on time and you can make one man miss, you're going to get a lot of yardage. I'm not telling you who it's going to be. It's Brandon Ayuk. But I like the over on, is that 36.5 longest completion?
We'll go more than 36.5 of the longest pass.
Yeah.
Let's go with more than 15.5 rushing yards. I think Brock's going to have like 25 rushing yards, 20, 25.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I like that too. Yeah.
We go.
You can only pick one. You can only pick one.
Well, let's go with the rushing yards. I think your argument was extremely sound, and I was wish casting a bit.
Okay, so we'll go more than 15.5 rushing yards. Okay. We can only go one. Gosh, I heard a voice. Okay, let's. Is there somebody else that you like?
George Kittle.
Let's take a look at Kittle.
We're going back to the well. I like over
4.5 receptions. So 5 receptions.
Over.
Yeah, I like that
I think
over too, especially
I think the opportunities are there, not just obviously in the red zone where Brock has been very vocal and he's a man-to-man beater. You know, George Kittle is a guy who wins in man-to-man. Beyond that, I'll give you the number here. He has 9 targets in man-to-man this year, 7 catches. No one's even close. I think there's like 14 catches between all the other receivers total. So he is contributing a massive amount there. He's the one, even more than Jennings, the one player that Brock trusts, particularly close to the red zone. There's no secret
Jennings
about
may
that.
not go.
Correct. So you have that. And if you watch that, this shouts to my man, Jake Hutchinson, Dieter and Hutch podcast. If you watch the Chiefs-Saints game, there was just opportunity after opportunity because of the way that you have to defend in your Kansas City. Opportunity after opportunity, middle of the field, wide choice routes. And I have to imagine that if Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill can do it, George Kittle can do it. So I'm in. I'm in on a big Kittle day.
Yeah, I am too, because they're Debo gets shut down by man-to-man coverage.
Yeah.
There is no Ricky Pearsall in this thing, right? I don't see any Pearsall.
Nor should there be. I mean,
well, he's on the practice squad, all right?
Yeah.
I mean,
he hasn't even functionally activated yet. So he merely has had his
he's
window
coming off
open.
the NFI still.
That's right.
Let's look at. I definitely like Nick Bolton over 8.5 tackles per and assists.
MIZ.
More than, I mean, let's, if we decided to take out a Nick Bolton game log, I mean, you can see how many games this year he makes lots and lots of tackles. So I would say more than 8.5 because you get assists too.
That's
so
right.
He's going to have 10 tackles.
I can just run it down: 11, 9, 9, 6 against the Chargers, and 16 against the Saints.
He's trending up, and on a team like the Niners are going to run the ball probably, or even in the pass game. Bolton's everywhere, so let's go Bolton over.
I like Bolton
more, and then Xavier Worthy. Let's take a look at Xavier Worthy real quick. I'd like to take a look.
Long? What's that long one on Xavier Worthy?
The one
70?
thing about the Chiefs is that the Chiefs watch the film and saw that the Niners against Tutu and Jefferson could not defend the vertical.
Right.
And now they've got the vertical. This is a true mismatch. The Niners don't have the personnel.
Yeah.
What is this? Restricted combination. Players on opposing teams cannot be played in this stat combo. Rushing yards. What? Okay, so get rid of the rushing yards. Give me the Bolton. We'll get rid of Purdy.
So we're going Xavier Worthy.
Okay, let's take a look at Xavier
If
Worthy.
Betr will let us.
Yeah, Better's very finicky.
Well, we
could go to Kareem Hunt too. Okay, let's see Xavier Worthy. Whoa, look at all Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, we could go Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt's a good option.
51.5 rush yards. Love that over.
I don't know. I think they're going to split up the carries too, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire got activated. I think they have 3 options at running back. I'm not sure Kareem Hunt's going to get like a big workload, so that's requiring him to get a big run. They run a lot of inside zone. As bad as the Niners are, like that's where Fred Warner lives.
I like Kareem Hunt over the 2.5 receptions.
That's a good thought. Little wonky.
Because they're gonna go with screens. They're gonna go screens to Kareem Hunt. I mean, if they watch Cleveland's film, Cleveland threw screens to Kareem Hunt, and they had success last year.
Yeah.
All right, I like that one. And where Worthy? What do we have again on Worthy? What's the longest on
let's
Worthy?
see that Worthy.
Let's see the Worthy. 36.5 receiving yards. That's it.
I kind of like the over there. That might be one catch, but
I do too. I think he's a lock for.
I like
40.
more.
Yep, more. All right, that's good. Let's go with more there, and that will be it. That's our wrap on it. Let's see what we got. We got Kittle more than 4.5 receptions, Bolton more than 8.5 tackles and assists, Xavier Worthy more than 36.5 receiving yards. Is it just 3? I thought we had a fourth.
It's just 3. No, we're rocking 3. 3 was our lucky number last time. It's going to feel weird because we have 2 Chiefs and a 49er, but that's okay. That's okay.
That's all right.
We'll break it down a game, not an emotion.
We'll go 10 to win 50.
I love it.
I'll take 5 to 1 on that. Once again, download the app and make sure you use the promo code Niners to get that first deposit matched up to $200. And thanks to Betr for being the proud sponsor of the Krueger Show, the live stream sponsored by Betr, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krueger Show. All right, I want you to see this. Oh, and once again,
jersey,
everybody who signs up automatically is entered into a drawing to win a Niner jersey of their choice. Niner, you can pick the size, you can pick the color, you can pick the name, the whole deal.
You could be the first person I've ever seen with an Isaac Guerendo jersey.
That's right.
You can be that guy.
Isaac Guerendo. He's going to be very popular if he continues playing the way he's playing. I'll tell you, Malik Mustafa. I wouldn't mind having a Malik Mustafa jersey the way that kid's playing. I talked to him today in the locker room. What a great kid.
We claim Malik Mustafa on the Dieter and Hutch podcast. Hutch found him last February, and we would geek out over his film on that podcast, which really lets you know where we were at emotionally and creatively at the time. We're like, let's watch some Wake Forest defense right now. And that's what we were about, and we really loved it.
One more on Spags on Purdy. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
Here we go.
You mentioned Purdy being pretty good. I mean, one of the things he seems particularly adept at is against the blitz. Obviously, you've been blitzing a lot, not asking people away game plan, but what's that fine balance? Wanting to blitz versus a quarterback that's good against it.
Yeah, I mean, we're never going to go in the game and not blitz at all because we're fearful of it. But I think we do have to respect the fact that he knows exactly what to do with the football. To me, the most impressive thing is even if it wasn't getting it out quick on a blitz, he has a unique way of getting away from it. I just showed a play this morning where I forget what team it was, but they brought quite a few people. He didn't blink. He didn't panic at all, and boom, and he was out of there. And I think he might have gained 2 yards or got the ball away. But that's a pretty good weapon for them to have to negate, that part of our defense.
You mentioned,
So what do you think? I mean, Brock Purdy had a great number last week against pressure. I was trying to look it up here, but it was big. Here it is. Purdy against Seattle against pressure, 142.6 quarterback rating. He's not the kind of guy who, this is a guy who does all the mental reps. Who struggles against blitz and pressure? Guys who haven't done the mental reps and don't have answers. But if you've done the mental reps, And okay, if I get this look, I'm going there. And if I get that look, I'm going here. And if I get this look, I'm going there. I mean, if you have all these things and you have answers, and he kind of prides himself on, hey, I put myself through all the reps until I have all the answers and all the checkdowns and I've got an answer for everything he's doing. Then you get Brock Purdy, and he's also got mobility. So
I think the latter part is the bigger part. And it's almost to a detriment. I mean, those quads are everything. Think about how often he has escaped what have been very muddy pockets throughout this season and made something happen with his feet, or the more rare occurrence, made something happen downfield. But I would bet that the clip that Spag showed was against Minnesota or Seattle, right? Those are the two chaos defenses that they've played who bring a lot of dudes. It worked. I mean, the idea that you can't blitz Brock Purdy, I think, is a bit oversimplistic, because he will burn you plenty of times and he'll be annoying as hell. By the way, the other quarterback in this game, that's kind of his thing too. But if you can force him into making less than prudent decisions, or maybe rushed decisions is the better way of putting it, he will throw you one every now and again. And by the way, the same thing true with the other quarterback in this game, Patrick Mahomes. I'm fascinated to see how much Spag steals from Brian Flores in the Minnesota game plan, where you're switching between quarters and palms in essentially triangles on the outside, and then bringing a bunch of dudes and dropping dudes back. Personnel-wise, they're not really built for that. Personnel-wise, they're built to get up in your grill, and their defensive line is more stout than explosive, though it is very explosive on the interior. Shout out Tershawn Wharton, this guy that they've sort of kept along for a couple of years, played Division II football, Missouri Rolla. I have been obsessed with his tape this week. He is a dangerous and strong man next to Chris Jones, who we know is about as good as anybody in the league at that position. Their interior versus the 49ers interior is going to tell us everything about this game. And it's going to put Brock in some very unfortunate positions that it's not. He is one of the few quarterbacks who is capable of making something out of those unfortunate positions. But far too often this season, he's been in them and has had to make something out of nothing. Man-to-man with interior pressure, if you were looking for a game that could be a disaster for Brock Purdy, this would be the one. The fact is that Brock has made so much out of nothing this season that we don't expect that to happen. I don't expect that to happen. And I'm just curious to see how many times the Chiefs can get him with that game plan, if that is indeed the game plan, versus how many times Brock gets them. And that's sort of the give and go. And it's just, there's such an irony to the fact that the one thing you don't do against Patrick Mahomes is you don't blitz him. You don't do it. And that the team that goes against Patrick Mahomes every week, the Chiefs defense, is operating on the same, at least emotional resonance game plan with Brock Purdy. That is, you want to talk about, is Brock good or not? The Chiefs treat Brock Purdy, at least from what I'm hearing and from what I've seen, the same way they would treat playing Patrick Mahomes. It's not to say they're the same. It's just to say they deserve the same amount of respect from opposing defensive coordinators. If that doesn't tell you everything, I don't know what to do for you anymore.
They're very similar. I mean, Brock doesn't have Mahomes' arm, but they both process really well. They're both in great offenses with lots of weapons.
Yeah.
And they both
limited
absolutely
weapons,
are underrated runners who know when to run and know how to run when they're running. I mean, they run with a purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, and they run with a purpose, and when both guys run is when there's money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
You put Brock in the fourth quarter of a playoff game, because you got to want to win. You got to be that competitor. And it's like, you know what? Against man coverage, sometimes the defense can turn their back and you have to run. Yeah. All right. I asked Nick Sorensen this question today, and I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah.
And I thought he would give me a better answer, but
he's been kind of cagey, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, but I mean, it's like, I don't know if he didn't see me working here or if he just tried to avoid it. I can't really tell if this is cluelessness or really skillful sidestepping, but here we go. Here it is. And I'm asking him about Devondre Campbell, who I don't really care for.
On a personal level, because I think we've all seen the tape and agree.
Yeah, here we go.
There's been 42 missed tackles in the last 3 weeks, and Campbell's missed, I think, 8 or 9 of them. Obviously, you're going with him. Why is he a better option than Winters or Graham?
We like both of them. I mean, they've both been getting snaps. Talking about D and Devondre, he's got so much experience. He brings a calmness. He understands the scheme, and he's been doing a really good job. And we've also been rotating D in there as well. So just like both of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so the doing a really good job. Can we maybe drill home a little bit on that? Because I guess there's different definitions for doing a really good job. Here's what he's doing. Here's what he's doing. And then you can tell me if it's a really good job.
Yeah.
He's allowing a 115.6 passer rating when targeted. That's the 18th worst of any linebacker in the NFL. It's
stunning. It's only 18th.
Yeah, I know. He's missed 8 tackles.
Mm-hmm.
He has a 19%. 19%. What is that? It's 4th worst. I guess it's a reception rate or something like that. I can't read that. 19%. Anyway, he's fourth most.
Yeah.
He's got the 3rd worst tackle grade according to PFF in the entire league.
That's right.
He's allowing a reception percentage of 89.3%, which is 10th worst.
It's 19%. He misses 19% of the tackles he's attempted this year.
But he's also, when you're going against him, you're completing almost 90%.
Yes.
90%, 89.3% success
25
ratio.
of 28.
Yeah. So, his missed tackle percentage or missed tackle rate is 19%,
right,
which is 4th most in the entire NFL. So, I mean, I'm seeing him isolated against DK Metcalf, giving up big plays. I also saw Kyler Murray run by him. He has no seemingly lateral agility. And then the thing that really bugs me about this more than anything is that I know what's going to happen here.
Yes.
This guy is going to continue to play the way he's playing. Eventually, they're going to give in when other people besides myself start complaining. And then they're going to put in Graham. And Graham's going to play great.
They'll put in Winters. They're going
to put in Winters first, but eventually they're going to get to Graham. Yeah. And Winters and Graham are going to play better than Campbell. And the question's going to be, why did you not go to Winters and Graham earlier? Now, I know Graham's going to miss some tackles, but Graham's also going to make a lot of plays. Yeah. He's going to miss a play here and there. But Campbell right now has lost his lateral agility. The game is about, I mean, I want Greenlaw, and they badly missed Greenlaw. But Greenlaw was super fast and also super, aggressive and ferocious.
He had the juice.
That ferocity is not going to be, that's unique to him. But that speed and that closing ability, can replicate that with Winters or with Graham. They're just going with the slower guy because they're trying to justify their free agent signing in the offseason. And I got to call it out for what it is. And I can't watch it anymore. Now, he says we like them both. But I guarantee you, I had a buddy call me this week who works in the NFL. He's like, Krug. He's like, Chiefs are going to beat the Niners again. You know that, right? And I'm like, I don't want to hear that, but tell me why you think so. And he's like, oh, Reed's going to absolutely crucify Campbell. He's just going to isolate Campbell in space, and he's going to throw all kinds of balls on Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to force Campbell right off the field.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I hung up the phone. I was pissed, but he's right.
I told you this was going to happen, Larry.
Why are they so wed to Campbell? Is it literally about the free? Is it like Oliver and last year? It's like, oh, we can't go to Ambry until Oliver just falls on his face. And then they went to Ambry and Ambry was better.
Well, I think there's a couple of factors here. One, Jalen Graham wasn't on the team until last week. Two, D. Winters hasn't been awesome either. Now, D. Winters does bring that juice and plays like a lunatic, man, which this defense sorely needs, but he finds himself out of position often. He misses a lot of tackles because he doesn't actually tackle. He just torpedoes into people shoulder first if he's lucky. And Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles has been arguably the only linebacker worse, not just on the Niners, but maybe in the NFL this season when he's gotten his spots. So they are so bereft of depth at linebacker. And now let's also add in this. You have a first-year defensive coordinator. What is he going to value when you think about, hey, I'm trying to put in my scheme. He's going to value guys who can be in what he thinks are the right spot, who can execute the play as it's drawn up. The problem is that's not how defense works. If you want to be old and slow somewhere, be old and slow on offense where you have the tactical advantage and you can be schemed. You want to be young and fast and kind of stupid on defense. Not everyone could be Fred Warner. Not everyone could be Nick Bosa. You want to have that twitch that Devondre Campbell hasn't had in 3 years. Let's not forget this was a guy who was signed after Eric Hendricks said, "Nah, I'm good. I'm going to go play with Mike Zimmer because he'll make me old Mike linebacker for the Cowboys." By the way, working out great for everybody. They're doing awesome. Good job, everybody. But this was just the guy who was hanging around, and you go, well, he was once a great player. He was once a great player. Then time took its toll, and his lack of mobility was wildly present in training camp. I saw it on the film going in, and I go, well, sometimes Fountain of Youth, California, you never know. Sometimes guys find that extra gear. Hey, last chance. Had a great offseason, feeling fast, feeling spry, worked through some injuries. We're back. I got one last great year in me. It was evident 3 days into training camp that was not the case for Devondre Campbell. And we saw it again and again in preseason even when they were playing him, that even if he did make the tackle, he was catching guys from behind at the linebacker position and pulling them down by the back of their jerseys. And it was just, might as well have put a giant arrow, Madden style, above his head and said, "Attack me." And the fact of the matter is, if they had anyone that they fully trusted, even if they kind of suck, they would have played him over Devondre. I don't think they're beholden to the free agency thing. I don't. I think that they don't feel like they have good options because they can't trust D. Winters because D. Winters doesn't know what he's doing out there yet. But at least he has the juice. And at this point, that's you got to have that because Devondre Campbell is a active detriment to you on defense. And it'd be one thing if he was stopping the run. He's not. And he is. What did Sean McVay do when they needed to move the ball late in that game? They called up the attack 59 play with Cody Parkinson. And they might as well have started walking down the field for the 20-something yards that Parkinson got him for to set up that late field goal. They might have started walking down the field before the ball was thrown because they knew Campbell wasn't turning his head around because they know he can't, that he's 5 steps behind on everything. It was omnipresent early in training camp. It was clear as day on his film. And the fact of the matter is he hasn't even been burned to the degree he will be burned going forward. Andy Reid is 32-6 coming off of bye weeks, including playoffs and Super Bowls in his career as a head coach. Your friend wasn't kidding. Your friend, honestly, it sounded fun and insightful. It's the most obvious thing in the flipping world that Devondre Campbell is going to get put in the blender in this game. And I honestly don't want to put it even on Sorensen. Put it on Kyle, whose entire offensive career has been about ruining linebackers' lives. His entire goal in the offense is to make bad linebackers look like assholes. And he has one who looks like a complete asshole out there. Nothing against him personally. Seems like a nice guy. But this guy is just embarrassing his legacy, embarrassing the defense. They don't need to run any plays other than, where's 59? Let's do something to fuck him up. The fact that Kyle Shanahan hasn't stepped in and said, we can't live like this anymore. We got to do something. Throw in Winters. I don't care if Winters doesn't know what he's doing. At least he brings some energy to a defense, which is something that this defense frankly needs. Now, luckily, Malik Mustafa has brought that too, and it's bringing, they got some youth. Renardo Green's brought it. You got a little bit of youth. They got a little bit of verve. They got a little bit of life. And that makes Nick Sorensen's life harder because they're young kids who frankly should scare any coach because they don't know what they're doing out there. But at least they're going out there and hitting dudes and playing fast and giving this defense some life to it. That's what makes a great defense, has both the tactical expertise and energy. They know where they're supposed to be, and when they attack as if they are trying to extract the soul from someone's body. This defense might know where it needs to be. It has none of that juice. And bringing in some young guys, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit on the former. I think you gain a lot more on the latter. And frankly, Sorensen's answer...
Go young.
It's
Devondre Campbell's not going to be faster next week than he was last week.
No, Mini-Buy ain't fixing Devondre Campbell. And
seriously.
I don't know about Graham. I don't know about Graham. I'm not the biggest Graham guy. You're
Graham's
a big
a hell of
Graham
a
guy.
player. Graham's going to be a hell of a player, man. Graham was good at Purdue. Really good. And it's like, you know what? Graham has the possibility, if you play him, to have 10 or 12 tackles.
Yeah.
He can fly around and make plays. I need to see Graham fail one time before I see Campbell fail 12 more times.
But it's
no
over.
More Campbell.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's been laughable.
It's too much. It's like, come on. And they're picking on him. It's obvious. The numbers are all there. He's playing really well. Nick, he's not playing really well. Come on.
He's probably great in a meeting room. I'll give him that because he's seen everything and done everything. But it doesn't matter how fast your mind is if your body cannot manifest what your mind is going. It does not matter if you and I can see the game clearly. We go out there, we die. It doesn't
I'll make
matter.
the prediction right now. They're going to eventually, I don't know if it'll be this week, eventually they're going to go away from Campbell.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to Winters.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to Graham at some point.
I think
and those guys are going to play really, really well. And guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be so happy that they're playing well that nobody's going to mention that where the fuck were these two guys?
Larry.
Nobody's going to say that. Nobody.
Larry, every single week I do a studs and duds column off of the game. And I am not kidding. It's almost feeling personally vindictive. Every single week I've had Devondre Campbell in the duds. Every single week this season. Because every week he has done something, not just one thing, multiple things that are so obvious and plain to me in the press box or me watching on TV, to me, a peon, a lay person, that it's like, we can't live like this anymore.
It's office space. What would you say you do here?
That's right.
But
he's really good in the meeting room. He knows where he should be. He just can't get there.
He's playing. I'll say this. Devondre is playing really well. All those numbers, those are all lies made up by statistical people that created stats that he would do poorly and to try to bounce him out of this league. He's really, I don't care what those numbers. Come on.
The point that you made is the most apt. If you were to build a game plan to beat the San Francisco 49ers, first off, you have many options these days. You can go on the vertical routes on the outside. You can attack the safeties. Jair Brown has been a favorite of opposing offensive coordinators this year. You could run it right up the goddamn middle. You could make Leonard Floyd look like a fool again and again and force the Niners to go to Sam O, who has actually been able to set an edge for this team. But where are they going to go first? To the guy who's next to Fred Warner. And they're just going to run it to his side. And anytime you get to the line of scrimmage and you go, okay, Fred's in the A gap and Campbell's in the B or the C gap, you know what? I don't think we're going to run inside zone on this play. I think we're going to do an outside zone, and we're going to get the second level guy right up to 59. And I think that's going to be about 12, 15 yards, right?
Well, football fans pay attention. When the game starts, that first series, the guys they attack are the guys that they feel best about.
That's what they thought about all week. They
thought about it all week. Now they got an opportunity. They're going at the guys they think they can beat. And guess who they went at with DK Metcalf in the Seattle game? Devondre Campbell. Guess who Kyler ran at? Devondre Campbell.
Yep.
Come on, Nick.
And guess who Sean McVay kept one in the bag for for late in the game if they really needed one. Devondre Campbell.
I'm going to grow the screen on this one. Look at this guy.
Meatball.
Look at this kid. He's got the Guardian cap.
Yeah.
Look at the quickness.
Yeah, Larry, let's be real about what we're seeing here. We're seeing a very sad rep from Laken Tomlinson, who once much like Devondre Campbell, once a great player who just can't do it anymore. 70 here.
But still, I mean, that's 325 pounds moving him up, moving pretty quick. Those are quick
Yeah.
feet for 290, for 325.
I'll give you that.
I bring this up because I'm going to stop sharing the screen on that one.
Yeah.
But
hell of an anchor there by Tomlinson.
yes, Tomlinson, he's special. He was a good player not that long ago.
No, he
But
was. Then he went to the Jets. It fell apart. And now, it's I say hang it up, but that's easy for me to say.
You think Laken should, that's
enough. Watching him before, I mean, obviously we were cramming for the Seahawks game, but I mean, watching him, it was like, as someone who really likes Laken as a person, I haven't talked to him in several years, but I really enjoyed talking to him in the locker room. He's just like this really sharp, genuine dude. He taught me, a good deal about football. It was, it's tough. It's tough to see someone that you like get their ass kicked repeatedly and not really be able to do anything about it. So
here's the kid. Here's Evan Anderson. I talked to him in the locker room. Here's a
FAU
30 seconds. Can you dunk?
Yeah, I could dunk.
Yeah.
You're a destroyer in the run game, but you got quick feet. Where do those quick feet come from?
I played basketball.
Did you? Power forward? Center?
Oh, yeah, I play center.
Okay. Can you dunk?
Yeah, I could dunk.
So what do you see? You're 6'2"?
Yeah, 6'2".
6'2", 320? And you can dunk, huh?
Yeah. I could dunk since like I was in the 12th grade.
No, I don't think you're dunking in here. That thing's like 20 feet. The hoop we got in here.
Yeah, that's high.
Yeah.
I don't know. I ain't trying.
But you're a hoopster, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. So was that what you played in high school? Hoops and football, or did you play anything else?
I had played basketball in high school until I got hurt, and then I stopped playing.
What's your move? You got to move. You got to drop step. You got to up and under. Or
I really like to tell people I'm like,
are you a shooter?
No, I'm not a shooter. I play good defense. I say I'm like Shaq and Zion.
Okay, you're like Shaq.
Like Shaq
Zion. There you go.
Yeah.
Can you dunk? Some of my favorite moments are going in the locker room and talking to the young guys because it's such a good group of guys.
No doubt.
And that kid's got a great attitude, but he's really talented, man. Really talented guy.
Yeah. I'm worried about
They gave this guy $280,000, Dieter, out of the blue
right
to sign with the Niners. And you know what? The guy can move, and he's played 2 games. And in those 2 games, Dieter, he's looked really good. I mean, he's been productive.
No doubt. My concerns with him are the same ones. He hasn't shed those concerns yet because I still question his strength at point of contact, and I do question his footwork. He has great feet. He can move, but he sometimes just kind of road runners it. And that's what I saw when he was at FAU. It didn't surprise me he didn't get drafted. He was somebody that Hutch and I actually spent a good deal of time on because there was these flash plays, much like we saw there, where you're like, wow, this guy is really impressive. But when you actually put on a full FAU game, which I professionally had to do for many years, and I don't like to think back on it as covering Conference USA football back in South Florida, well before Evan Anderson's time. But when you put on a full FAU game, which I had all of them recorded on YouTube TV like a sicko, you notice that he just disappeared for quarters, halves, full games. So I'm fascinated because the Niners are clearly utilizing him. They're wanting to bring him in. They obviously see the flash, right? And we're seeing the flash. And you get a Laken Tomlinson rep and you just absolutely work what was once a really good left guard. That's flash. That's worthwhile. That's something to further explore. I just hope that they don't reach a point of diminishing returns, which I don't believe is that many more snaps than he's currently getting. He's a weapon to be utilized in short bursts against the right opportunities. I'm not sure he's the second coming of DJ Jones because the get off on the line is questionable. Hand-to-hand combat is extremely questionable, and his footwork is just raw. But that's one man's opinion, and I love seeing I love seeing any FAU player do well because I've just spent way too much time in that building to not have an affinity for former Owls.
Late breaking story here. We go to this one. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
NFL rumors: 49ers reportedly have interest in Panthers running back Miles Sanders.
Okay.
For running back depth. Dieter, what do you think? What do you think of that name? I mean, obviously he was in Philly. Carolina's out of it. They're going nowhere. It seems like the Niners are almost using Carolina as almost like a minor league system. What do you think of Miles Sanders at this point? Does he still have anything left? Where is he?
No, I don't like it at all. If Carolina's getting rid of you, that's a real issue for me. Denver just cut a guy that for the life of me, I cannot remember. I'm going to look it up real fast. But they just cut a running back that I actually liked a lot.
They activated Javonte Williams, right? Is that why?
They did, but they cut my goodness, what was his name? This is going to bother me. We're just going to do bad.
I'll get it for you. What?
Regardless, that's where they should be looking. They should be attacking young players that haven't shown anything yet, because again, in this system, you have a real opportunity to maximize.
Not Estime, right?
No, not Estime. Jeez Louise, Dieter.
They didn't cut Audric. They didn't cut Audric Estime, did they?
Well, you know what? I know Hutch tweeted it out. We're just going to go check his goddamn page, because why bother having our own opinions when we can
not
just
Jaleel McLaughlin.
Not Jaleel McLaughlin. Blake Watson. Blake Watson is the name.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good player.
He's a good player. Broncos waived him.
Small,
no reason not to
undersized.
bring him in. Miles Sanders has no juice left. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It was one of the names you brought up. There's just no juice left. And this team doesn't need somebody who can, he sees the field. He's got experience. Who gives a damn? Like Patrick Taylor was fine as a red zone guy. He's a good battering ram of a back. If you trust him in the red zone, that's exactly what Miles Sanders would do for you in the situation. I see no upgrade there. Certainly, he's not an upgrade when it comes to athleticism and big play potential to a Garendo. I would prefer to have a Keyshawn Vaughn in there. But if you can go get a Blake Watson, who just got waived by Denver, that screams more to me like a viable option than the former, the ghost of Miles Sanders.
I don't know. I mean, I first of all, I like Keyshawn Vaughn, and I was talking to Keyshawn today in the locker room, and I really think he deserves a shot. I mean, I really do. I think he's
smooth.
But you know what? There are a lot of young guys out there. I'll tell you that. One of the teams I was talking to Ben Barch about this in the locker room today. We were talking about the Niners and the Chiefs are very similar. Both teams are very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams have strong offenses. Both teams really good coaching staffs. And then, he pointed out that, there's a lot of good players, depth, a lot of good depth on both teams. And it's really true. And I mentioned how, it seems like annually the Chiefs get these guys and they put them on the practice squad and they're pretty good.
Yes.
We were talking about their practice squad. And I mean, like just looking at their practice squad right now, they have Imani Bailey, who played at TCU, who's super explosive.
That's
and then Barch said that his buddy is Keith Taylor, who's a jumbo corner who's been in this league for a number of years. He's a good player. And you got other guys here. You got Justin Ross. You got Montrell Washington, a wide receiver, Bailey Zappi, a quarterback. I mean, they've got some decent players. Fabian Lovett on their from Florida State. He's a pretty good player. Deontay Ingram. Yeah. They got some good players on their practice squad. I would definitely take a look at the TCU kid. I mean, Imani Bailey is explosive. He's 210 pounds. He's 5'7". He's 5'7", 210, but explosive.
Yeah, Blake Watson.
Height's overrated, I think, for running backs.
I'm with you.
I don't care if you're 5'5". If you're explosive and you pack 210 pounds on your frame, especially it's
almost an
210
advantage.
Pounds on a 5'7" guy. That's a pretty thick guy. That's a pretty thick athlete right there.
And I was going to say with Blake Watson, he's 5'9", 200, but he's got a 41-inch vert and 11-foot broad jump.
And he doesn't catch the ball.
And he can catch the ball out of the backfield. So if you're looking for that classic third down back, this would be a very good option in that regard. I'll say this, Denver, I mean, they won big tonight. they certainly have some deficiencies on that roster. One thing they are just flush with is like above average running backs. They got them coming out of their ears in Denver right now to the point where they could just let this guy go. And I'm sure that they want to keep him on the practice squad. And I'm not sure that it would be the best move for the 49ers to put Blake Watson on their 53. But, man, that's such a better option than somebody who the Carolina Panthers, who are desperate right now. I know that they got the kid from Texas coming in and all that, but like Carolina Panthers could use a running back. They could use it. It can't all be Chubba Hubbard here. And they're like, you know what, Miles Sanders, just go. You got nothing for us. There's just no gas left in the tank there. You got to roll the dice a little bit. I don't care about, he knows the zone. It's kind of like the Devondre Campbell thing, right? You're a running back. Your entire goal. It'd be nice if you had great vision. It'd be nice if you knew everything going on, especially if you're a guy who's just being asked to go into spot situations. Give me someone who's got some juice and some explosion and can make something happen, because you're not throwing the full playbook at him. You're throwing third downs, typically third and longs at this kind of guy. I'm pretty sure he can figure out what to do on a wheel route. Like, it can't be that.
He's not old. He's 27. But I will say this, his game log for the year, like this week he had 3 carries for 1 yard.
Yeah.
Last week he had 2 carries for 6 yards. Against Cincinnati, he had 6 carries for 32 yards. So 5-3
runs into the back of his line again and again and again, and it's slow developing. When he gets the ball,
2.4 against the Raiders, 2.9 against the Chargers. I mean, yeah,
it's brutal.
Probably not the guy.
I feel bad for him. I mean, this is why you don't pay running backs, because there is just such a depreciation on the asset, which is such a callous thing to say. They're human beings, but like this guy was once a really good running back. And then he got hit about 5,000 times, and now he doesn't have that same ability that he once had, and he's just sort of floating out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. You know, the one thing about the trade deadline, which is coming up on November the 4th, and it's already the 17th of October. So
and trades are already happening, right? Like,
yeah, we're basically inside the window right now where trades could happen at any point. And the thing about the Niners is that they've got significant money. I think $54 million over the under the cap right now. They want to roll that over for Purdy, we know,
of course,
but they also are inside their Super Bowl window. And you know, I think John Lynch would like to do something. He's done something a lot of years, and the only thing about him is I don't think that they just want to do. I've heard people say, "Well, I think they'll make a move, but it'll be a small move." Well, okay. I mean, that's easy to predict. I mean, because most moves are kind of small. But I do think that John Lynch is in that, let's see if we can find a difference maker. I don't think they want to trade any assets unless they get a true difference-making type player. Now, I bring this up because our good friend Chase Sr. had a video. And listen to this. This is pretty good, actually. Tell me what you think of this. We'll watch this briefly, and then we'll react. Here's Chase Sr., who I stream with tomorrow morning, bringing up a name that he thinks the 49ers ought to go after.
A superstar player who I would be interested in if I were John Lynch, who could help you right now and in the future, and especially help you with pass rushing ability from defensive tackle, but also run stuffing ability from that defensive tackle spot, is Dexter Lawrence. He is a freak. He plays nose tackle for the New York Giants, which is even more impressive that this year so far, he has 7 sacks, an overall Pro Football Focus grade of 89.6, run defense grade of 83.6, pass rush grade of 78.4. On top of that, he has 11 stops, 13 hurries, 24 pressures on 196 pass rush snaps. When you think about some of the best defensive players in the NFL, Dexter Lawrence is one of them because he can dominate and change the complexion of a whole game. And when you think about some of the best defensive tackles in the game, it's Chris Jones, it's Dexter Lawrence right after him. A superstar.
All right, so he's aiming high. Now, he did a video earlier in the week on Max Crosby. I think Mark Davis came out and said, hey, Crosby's not going anywhere.
No.
Which, you know, and I could have told you that there's no chance in hell. Mark Davis would rather, you know, he'd rather never go to P.F. Chang's again than trade with the Niners. I mean, he's just, he's Mark Davis. The last thing he wants to do is help the Niners. But
Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence is a great name. Why? Because he is a true difference maker.
Player.
And the Niners, I think, for years probably were afraid to trade their number one picks. But I mean, if you look at it, they've basically used 7 first-round picks on Trey Lance, Mike McGlinchey, Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas, and Javon Kinlaw.
Right.
That's a fact. 7 number ones they've wasted on those 5 guys, and they went 0 for 5. So when you waste 7 number ones on 5 players that didn't work out, it kind of makes me think that maybe I ought to pull a Les Snead and just be like, hey, you know what? We're inside of our Super Bowl window. Let's stop taking chances with our first round pick, especially since we're picking in the 20s.
Right.
Let's trade them for something more of a sure thing, something more established, like Jalen Ramsey. And the Rams did that. They won a Super Bowl. Should the Niners do that? Should they just say, you know what? We don't know what we're doing in the first round. We're not picking the right guys. We're not taking any more chances. We're inside of our Super Bowl window. Here you go, Giants. Here's a 1 and a 2 and a 3.
Yeah.
Send over Dexter Lawrence, because if you did put Dexter Lawrence on their front, the Niners would be incredibly better, I think. I mean,
no doubt.
Lawrence is special. What do you think of that name?
I love the name. If we're just going to live in a vacuum,
would you pay the price?
Well, let's be very clear about what the price is. It's absolutely a first round pick. And then also Dexter Lawrence just signed a 4-year contract extension worth $90 million with the Giants. So you're not just paying the price when it comes to here are all our draft picks. You're now also getting rid of players on your roster as to fit in what would be $17 million and $20 million. And you'd probably have to restructure it so it's all wonky and who knows what it is. But we're talking a major chunk of change that you don't have. They're already in cap hell, and there's no question in my mind that Dexter Lawrence is worth every penny of what his new contract says. 27 years old, I would imagine that he fulfills the terms of that contract very well, and that he would be an absolute asset to any team that has him, and the San Francisco 49ers desperately need a player like that. They cannot afford him, and it has nothing to do with the draft compensation, because I'm in your school of thought here. You're not getting a better player than Dexter Lawrence with a first-round pick, but you are getting a cheaper player, a significantly cheaper player, and that's just as important to the 49ers moving forward. It's why I think that a guy like Andre Cisco, the safety for the Jacksonville Jaguars, would be a much better option, or maybe a more realistic option is a better way to put it, because there's not going to be a better player traded than Dexter Lawrence if guys are getting traded. And I include the players who have already been traded, and Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams. Like, this is why I'm thinking more in the Cisco realm, a guy who you can bring in for a year or two, not going to cost you anything crazy, and gives you a market upgrade, maybe not a massive upgrade. He's certainly not an all-pro caliber player like a Dexter Lawrence is, but gives you a market upgrade at a position where you really do need it, because as much as we're loving, Hargrave gets cut, they still have to pay a lot of dead cap on Hargrave. So like the idea, Hargrave getting cut is already cooked into the books. The idea that the 49ers just have the ability to add another $20 million a year player right now is good in theory, but then you have to pay the piper next year, where you've already locked in a Deebo Samuel to next year. You already have Christian McCaffrey locked in. You were already going to have to get rid of Charvarius Ward, which at this point looks like a good deal. You were already going to have questions about Banks, which again, let him walk at this juncture, but who knows? You already have big questions about how you keep Diamador Lenore. Like, it can be done. I'm not sure it's the easiest thing to do, and it does have serious ramifications on the rest of the roster. That said, it would be such a home run that you almost worry about it later. But again, financially exceptionally difficult. I would have no problem giving up the draft compensation to make something like that happen, because he's exactly what you need, and he's going to be as good as any player you could possibly get to fill that need. I just don't think the Niners are in a position of maneuverability to make it happen.
I mean, he doesn't just fill the need. He's also a foundation piece type player that cost a ton.
Yeah.
If you said to me, what do the Niners need to do? I think they do need to make a move. I absolutely do. And I do think they need some significant help. But I think that the goal should be maybe aim beneath, like, Lawrence would be like a primo player that would cost you so much. I mean, that's going to cost you. That's a McCaffrey type ad, right? I mean, that's going to cost you 3, 4, 5 picks. I mean, it's going to be a lot. And then, as Dieter said, there's going to be an offletting of players to compensate for the contract. I made a list of the top 11 players that I would be looking at. And to me, there's some real useful names on this list. Okay, so here's my quick list.
Awesome.
Azeez Ojulari from the New York Giants. He's only playing, less than 40% of the snaps. He had 8 sacks as a rookie. He's not old. And I just feel like he's been wasted in New York. He's sitting behind Thibodeau. Thibodeau's hurt now, but Ojulari's an outstanding edge rusher, very explosive. And I think his best football still coming. Okay. Greg Newsome, cornerback in Cleveland. They got the Deshaun Watson contract. He's set to play next year at $13.4 million on the 5th-year option, but they can't get rid of Deshaun, and so they're going to have to offload a guy like Newsome, most likely as a cap casualty in the offseason. So there's a lot of talk they're going to hand him away to somebody else next week. He's a really good player at a premium position. He plays a nickel corner, and he plays it really well. So Greg Newsome II is a really intriguing name. I don't think they're going to move. I don't think they're going to trade because they won tonight. But DJ Jones from Denver, Denver's looking pretty good right now. But Dan Graziano, said that he linked DJ to the Niners. I think lots of Niner fans would love to see him. But as I said before, I love what I see out of Evan Anderson. They may be able to get away with just Evan Anderson. Here's a name that I really like. And this is another solution to my Campbell problem, because part of the reason the Niners aren't going to Winters and Graham is they don't believe in Winters and Graham.
Right.
It's not just that Campbell, they don't recognize that Campbell stinks. I mean, they do, but they also, they don't love those other two guys.
Correct.
Devin Lloyd is available, the linebacker from Jacksonville, who was, first round pick by the Jags from Utah in 2022.
Yeah.
He last year had a 90.3 PFF run
awesome.
Defense grade. He's good against the run. He's rangy. He's a 3-down linebacker. He's fast. I think one problem right now with the Niners is they're too geared up for Greenlaw's return. And this guy's coming off a major injury, and I just fear for him. I would rather them get somebody at his spot and let him recover at his own pace than try to rush him back. And I just think that's disaster waiting to happen. So Devin Lloyd, I really, really want. In fact, Jacksonville's the team that I think I'd like to target.
Yeah.
Number 5 on my list is Tutu Atwell. I mean, you've been trying with Jacob Cowing. You've been trying with Danny Gray. Screw all that. Get the guy who's a legitimate deep threat. I'd give him Jacob Cowing if they wanted him. Here's Jacob Cowing. You can have our deep threat. We'll take your deep threat. Your deep threat's more of a veteran, more of a sure thing. Our guy's more speculative. Good luck to you. 6th on my list is Von Miller. I don't know that Buffalo's going to move him, but he's been suspended until week 8. If by chance they want to move him, he's still a Hall of Fame edge rusher, and he's a difference maker, and I'd want him if I could.
That's exactly what the Niners need, another old edge rusher coming from Buffalo.
As long as he can be Von Miller, though. I mean, the guy's got multiple rings for a reason. 7 on the list is Walker Little, Jacksonville's swing tackle. I kind of like what I'm seeing from the Niner offensive line. That's not as much of a pressing need. Number 8 is Emmanuel Forbes. I know that he's never playing in Washington, and Peters didn't draft him. Peters likes Ambry Thomas. I'd offer him Ambry Thomas and a day, late day 3 pick for Emmanuel Forbes. Forbes had 6 pick sixes at Mississippi State. I like Forbes, and I would take Forbes. I know he's skinny, but I would take him. Number 9 on my list is Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, and I don't know if the Bengals want to move Hendrickson, but I bet you Detroit's calling about him with Aiden Hutchinson out for the year. But I think him opposite Bosa, Hendrickson would be a phenomenal addition.
Yeah.
Number 10, I'd like to have with Devin Lloyd. Like if you could say make your ideal trade, I want Devin Lloyd and Darnell Savage from Jacksonville. If I could get Darnell Savage and Devin Lloyd, I think that's the move the Niners need to make. Why? Because Savage is a veteran nickel corner who can play the slot, he can play the boundary, and he can play free safety in the deep middle. He's got great speed. He's very heady. He's played in a number of different systems. He's also a former tag team with the newest Niner, Adrian Amos.
Yeah.
I've just always been a Savage fan. He's a big
Packers.
Big player. I mean, he's not the biggest player, but he was great at Maryland. He's been great in the NFL. I want Savage and Devin Lloyd. I want Lloyd and Warner inside until Greenlaw comes back, and I want Savage on the back end. And if you get Savage on the back end, guess what? Then you can tell Hufanga, take your time and heal. Then you can tell Jair and Hufanga, you guys play in the box. Then you can play Mustafa in the box as well. And you can have Savage play in the deep middle. And then you got a free safety. You got a nickel corner if you need a nickel corner. You got a versatile veteran. Lloyd's a young player. That would be, if I could make one deal, it would be Devin Lloyd and Darnell Savage. And the 11th guy on the list is Hassan Reddick, just because he switched to Drew Rosenhaus. Rosenhaus and the Niners got a deal done recently for Juwan Jennings. They got enough money to afford Reddick. I really do think they need some edge rush help to get Leonard Floyd into more of a limited down type role. I do think Reddick is a name the Niners will be absolutely all over between now and the deadline. What do you think of the list? Is there a position or a name that you are intrigued about as the deadline is only 2 weeks away?
I would stay away from Newsome. I don't think that he's a very good cornerback. Full stop. I think that he has all the athletic traits that you want. I think that he has a lot of swagger on the field. I don't think he knows how to play the ball or his man very well. And I would venture to say the numbers bear that out. I think he has been bailed out in recent years. And I noted this last couple times the Niners have played the Browns. Like, he's been bailed out recent years by having a great defense around him, and obviously having Denzel Ward on the other side and good safety play. And this year, I haven't watched, but maybe 5 quarters of the Browns this season. But red flags pop up in my mind when I think of Greg Newsome this year. He just doesn't have a feel for the game. So that would not be where I would go. It's interesting you bring up Savage. I think his name is very cool. He is obviously a very good player. They did just get him. And I know that, Bulky's probably out at the end of the year. And so what the hell do they care? All this stuff. I think Andre Cisco
seems to be the kind of guy they would easily part with.
Maybe the exact opposite. I don't know. I got to get Trent on the phone there. I don't think he'll take the call. But Andre Cisco, the other safety for the Jaguars, is a really good cover 3 safety. Now, he is not going to bring a lot of thump, but he has great recognition and great coverage skills. And you can just leave him back there as a single high, which is something this team doesn't. This team doesn't have a free safety at all. There's no free safety on the San Francisco 49ers, and they want to play cover 3. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
What was I hearing about Cisco, though? Didn't Cisco have a rough couple weeks?
Yeah, he hasn't. Who on the Jaguars hasn't? And then he, I think, called out his team for quitting in the last game.
That's what it was.
Which is a great reason to get traded. If you're trying to get traded, that's a good way to start. They're going to either fire the coach or trade Andre Cisco. Either way, not the 49ers problem. That seems like a win for this, only knocking down his price a little bit here. And listen, there's a lot of spots you can go. You can go weak side linebacker. You can go with corners, right? So now you know where Lenore is. You're not having to worry about Isaac Yiadom. You could absolutely go defensive tackle. You sure shit can go at defensive end because you only spent $20 million there and have gotten nothing, and you're playing Sam O, a guy you cut 2 days after the cut deadline, is maybe your best option there. But honestly, the team doesn't have a free safety. You need a free safety to play a single high coverage scheme. And while I'm not the biggest fan of single high, clearly Nick Sorensen has some affinity towards it. And maybe they should have somebody who would allow them to do that, because when Jair Brown is out there doing it, man, they are just getting wrecked. Jair Brown is prime meat.
He's a hitter. He's a hitter, but he's not.
I like him in the box. I like Jair Brown a lot, but Malik Mustafa has provided more impact than Jair Brown in the limited opportunities that he's had to play that role. Adrian Amos is available for a reason, and you probably don't want him hanging out there as the last line of defense. And Talanoa Hufanga, as I have said many times over, and at some point someone's going to listen to me at least on this one thing, is a strong side linebacker and not a safety, which in a cover 3 is one and the same, but in a cover 4 or a cover 2 or just a too high shell, kind of an issue for this team. They don't have a free safety. I would go out and get something that you kind of need to run a modern NFL defense, but that's just me.
I mean, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what they ultimately do. Here's a couple supers here. Anthony says KC 31-3 if the new kicker works out. 49ers offensive line is weak.
That's a real issue, because again, this is
coming off a great game. They just ran for 228 yards and gave up no sacks.
But against a defensive line in Seattle that is pretty laughable. Now, it's not to take anything. Well, I guess I did take away something, but
I mean, it's just what they've done. I mean, that's the most recent performance. So, I mean, I know you're right though. It's a major step up, and how the Niners run the ball is going to determine a lot in this game. KC's got a great run D. They give up 88 yards a game. They've held all their runners against them. They've held them under 45 yards.
These are big, strong, beefy boys. They are not going to get to the quarterback with extreme explosion and speed off the edge. What they're going to do is they're going to be stout. And this offensive line has had a real issue, not just this season, but over the last couple seasons, with heavy defensive lines. And you have inarguably the heaviest defensive line that runs a 4-man front in the league. And it's a battle of ideologies. Kyle Shanahan doesn't spend money on the interior of the offensive line, and that's where Kansas City's strongest. And I'm fascinated to see how it goes.
By the way, Sacred Intuition says, Larry, is Jennings and Mason officially out? Jennings did not practice today for the second straight day. Debo and Mason both practiced in the blue jersey. I think Jennings is going to be out. I think it's going to be the Ricky Pearsall. I think Pearsall, they got him for Kansas City, and he's ready to go now. And so they're going to dust him off against Kansas City. Kansas City's going to play a lot of man. This is their man beater. This is their answer. We're going to find out how much of an answer he really is. Mm-hmm. So I think JJ sits this one out. And I think they go with Pearsall. That's my feeling on that. As far as Mason, I'm not really sure what to believe there. I think Mason might be a game time decision. They'll probably shoot it up, see if he can handle the pain. I bet you he'll go. My guess is he'll go. I don't know though. Ruben Bocanegra.
Yeah,
Bocanegra. Are you guys willing to go all in and risk the next couple of years for a Super Bowl win like the Rams did and then rebuild for a few years? Well, I don't know if I want to do it the way the Rams did it and have to like literally just give up for a couple of years. I don't know if I like that. I don't think it's in the Niners' best interest necessarily to do that. Now, the Rams were trying to reestablish themselves in Los Angeles in a very tough situation. So they were like, that was part of Stan Kroenke's vision. It's like, we'll build this thing. We'll spend, elaborately, we'll make all kinds of additions and take chances and leverage ourselves, win the Super Bowl, try to win back some of those fans. Now they did it, but they also had to give up a couple of years to, to kind of hit a reset. I don't think the Niners want to be in that mode where they're giving away seasons. So I don't know that they'll ever go to that level of leverage or that level of all in on a particular season like the Rams did. The Rams were a little bit like, hey, we're going for it. We're absolutely going for it.
I would also like to note, are they not already all in? Are they not already fiscally tied to the roster that they have for years and years? Like money has been spent.
$54 million over the cap. They're $54 million.
They have to roll over every penny of that to make Brock Purdy's contract work, to make Brandon Ayuk's contract work. They've already guaranteed Deebo Samuel's contract for next year. They got it is too wonky to get into the details, and I won't pretend to know all the ins and outs of it. but everyone that I've talked to who does have a better grasp on these things than I do, and I think I have a decent enough grasp on it, is like that money can be touched, but you're paying, you're getting a loan essentially. You're paying out a nice 19%, 20%, whatever. You're basically paying for anything you buy right now with a credit card. And that's not very good fiscal decision making. Might be good football decision making. Not arguing that at all. But if you want to go all the way in, if you want to push every last chip that you have, which they're pretty close to being down to their final stack here, if they're not already out, if you want to push it all the way in, now you're setting yourself up for a much lower floor in the future, because not only are you tied to all of these players already on the roster, some of which have extremely diminished returns on their talent, but you're tied to them for years and years and years down the line, in which case now you have to replace them with draft picks that you just gave away this go around. Like I'd be shocked if they made a big move. Shocked.
Couple more thoughts before we get out of here. I do have a couple things I want to get to.
Yeah.
One is there seems to be one area where these teams are completely diametric opposites of one another. And to me, I think this is really interesting. And I asked Brock Purdy a little bit about this. First, I'll let you hear the question and answer, and then I'll throw the stats at you guys. But here it is. Here's the question I asked Brock, and it's really about the Chiefs defense in the second half, because they've shown that they get better as the game goes on. Here's Brock on that.
The numbers show that this Chiefs defense sometimes gives up points early and then gets better and better as the game goes on. Does the film show that? Is there anything on the film that they do differently as the game progresses that helps them?
Man, I think they're just they have a lot of experience within playing within the scheme. A lot of the guys that have been there, they understand how their coordinators call them plays and where they need to be. It's a very sound and disciplined defense, and I think for them, maybe, I don't know for sure, I'm not in their meetings or anything, but it might be the bend but don't break kind of defense, and when the game matters and it's on the line, they're the side of the ball that needs to get it done. And their defense has shown that in the last couple of games in this season. So definitely do see it. They haven't given up many points. And like I said, they all have a lot of experience together, and they play and they tie together really well just across the board. So one of the best defenses that we'll see this year for sure.
Okay. So that's Brock talking about this defense. I brought that question up to him because Kev dug up these stats that are pretty amazing. This is the 49ers. So the Niners defense starts fast, but struggles in the second half, according to the numbers. KC's defense struggles in the first quarter, but then they take off from there. Here is points by quarter and where it ranks in the league. The Niners in the first quarter score 2.8 points. They're fourth in the league. Second quarter, 5.2 points. That's ninth in the league. But in the third quarter, the Niners this is what the Niners allow. Defense. We're talking about defense. The Niners allow 2.8 points in the first quarter, fourth. 5.2 points in the second quarter, ninth. 7.2 points in the third quarter, 31st in the NFL. And then again in the fourth quarter, 7.2 points. And that's 21st.
Yeah.
And then Kansas City by comparison. So the Niners go 4 to 9 to 31st to 21st. Kansas City on the same stats starts at 21st and then goes to 13th. And in the second half, in the third quarter, they're second. And then the fourth quarter, they're 11th. But basically, it just looks like Kansas City's worst defensive quarter is the first quarter, and then they adjust. The Niners are actually, their worst defensive quarter is coming out of the locker room in the third quarter. I don't know. I mean, what do you make of that? To me, it seems like it seems like if the Niners get off to a good start in this game, people are going to be excited. You might want to pump the brakes because the Niners defense tends to soften as the game goes on, and the Kansas City's defense tends to stiffen as the game goes on.
Three things. One, they're impeccably coordinated. Steve Spagnuolo is as good as anybody in this league at coordinating, and his in-game adjustments, as we alluded to at the beginning of the stream, as we saw in the Super Bowl, are exceptional. He knows what doesn't work, and he has counters to counters, and they have been drilled. So he's not throwing anything that's off the wall at his defense. They're ready to go to the counters because, again, they're exceptionally organized and exceptionally coordinated, and he's as good a defensive mind as exists in the league. Second, it's an issue of physicality. The Chiefs' defense gets better because the Chiefs' defense beats you up throughout the game, and they are so strong and they are so physical. And by the way, they were built to be that way. That's not just a random happenstance. They were built to play that way. That offenses wear down against that kind of repeated banging as a game goes along, to where now the Chiefs get the upper hand in the tactical chess match between offense and defense, and physicality is the ultimate neutralizer on an NFL field. The third thing, and this is a difference in how these teams are structured. Kansas City's not a team that has some explosive pass rusher off the edge that's getting all these sacks, a guy like a Nick Bosa or a TJ Watt. They're built from the middle in or middle out. They're built for physicality, and they are deep. They have sacrificed maybe having some top-end players in certain positions. Now, these are all very high-level guys, but they're they're New Englanding it a little bit, where they're getting a bunch of guys who fit this scheme of big, powerful defenders who do have some weaknesses, but those weaknesses can be mitigated by scheme and by blitzing. They can rotate players at a better rate than I think any other defense in the league. If you don't like what's going on with the Tershawn Wharton, who was a depth guy for them, but is now their starter. Oh, here's Mike Pennell. Like, they got really good options there. And by being so well coordinated and being so physical, it allows them to operate in creative ways to bring pressure late in the game that a lot of other teams can't do, because there's also a trust across the board, whether it's a second string or a first string guy in there, that, hey, if we're blitzing in this way, this guy's going to cover for me, because everyone fits the scheme so well, because Spags has done such a great job in identifying, again, I'll go back to Wharton, a guy who played Division II football, not at a particularly high level from what I can tell, undrafted, and he's developed him over the years to now he is just this monster of a player on the inside next to Chris Jones. And oh yeah, they have that Chris Jones guy who, when things start getting, hey, we need some big plays here, well, we're going to put Jones at end. You know, we're going to do a stunt with Jones here. We can throw our funky and interesting and weird stuff, these exotic blitzes or these exotic setups, late in the game, as opposed to having to use them from the jump, because they're built to withstand pressure again and again and again, but ultimately win the fight, even though they might lose a round or two, win the fight because they're so much bigger, stronger, and better coordinated. I have so deeply enjoyed watching Kansas City film this week. It's just a really impressive operation. And I know Mahomes and Kelsey, they deserve all the credit that they get. I know some people are down on them this year. I think they're still there's a lot of potential to be had for this team. And I think we see it on Sunday. Their defense is just such a finely tuned machine. And every snap, it's just like, wow, these guys are really, really impressive. And it's almost the exact opposite with the 49ers, to where, of course, they wear down as the game goes along. They physically wear down as the game goes along, and they don't have any damn depth. They don't even have a free safety, much less depth. So, of course, they're going to fade, because you're having to play Nick Bosa well beyond the point of him maximizing snap after snap. You have to keep him on the field. There's no alternative. So what's he going to look like in the fourth quarter when he's just gotten double teamed again and again, and, you know, chokeholded again and again and again? He's not going to be the same kind of player. You don't have any depth at defensive tackle. You don't have any depth at defensive end. You don't even have two starting caliber linebackers right now. You have question marks at corner. You don't even have a free safety. Of course, this team's going to look worse in the second half. They also have a coordinator who, I'm not sure if he's doing a good job or a bad job, because of all the reasons I just listed out, kind of a difficult hand to be dealt, but also, like, he's definitely not Steve Spagnuolo. And I don't know what this team's defensive identity is. It sure as shit isn't being physical and beating the shit out of guys as a game goes along. Kansas City is just, they're the cream of the crop for a reason.
The Niners have missed 42 tackles because as you said, they're gassed and they're thin. They don't have enough players, and so they're falling off tackles. Here's a question I want to ask you, and I asked George Kittle this question. We'll see if my question is inside this. We'll see this. This was a CamBR video.
My 2 keys to victory that are 100% my opinion and nothing else that anyone else has said. I think every time we played the Chief, we've had multiple turnovers on offense. And you just can't turn out the ball over against a team that has Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on the other side because they can really score at will. Their offense is very complicated, hard to game plan. So between not turning the ball over and then I would just love to run the ball 30 times. Like those are my 2 things. Stay on the field, dominate the time of possession, and don't turn the ball over.
I like those. I asked that question. Don't turn it over. I looked at their last 3 games, the Niners and Kansas City, the last 3 games between Niners and Chiefs. Niners have turned it over 7 times.
Yeah.
7 times.
Yeah.
That's a big part of this whole thing. And I totally agree with them. The Niners got to play cleaner football. They got to play cleaner football. You're not beating this team -1, -2 in turnovers. They're too good. They're too talented. Kittle or Kelsey's too good. Mahomes is too good. Reed's too good. You can't give them extra possessions. So I agree with that. Run the ball and don't turn it over. But those are both going to be impossible to do because Kansas City's great at getting turnovers and they're very difficult to run on. They only give up 88 yards a game. What's your key to victory on Sunday?
Brock Purdy has to be the better quarterback in the game. And I think it's a viable option, frankly. There's so many things. The interior of the offensive line really does need to hold up. They need to have their best game. I need Dominic Pooney to look like an all-pro. I don't know who the hell's going to be playing left guard to look really good. That's where the pressure is going to be coming from. The Chiefs are the best team in the NFL at blitzing. They're not exotic. They're not coming at you like Minnesota or like last year's Ravens, theoretically this year's Seahawks, though they don't have the personnel. But when they blitz, they win. They win every goddamn time. And the 49ers have been hit and miss on that. So I'm with George in the sense that when they blitz, you cannot turn it over. If you don't get yardage, that's fine. You cannot turn it over. You cannot have the blow-up play. I would like to see them. For me, if we're really narrowing it down, there's about a million spots I can go. But if I'm really narrowing it down, I'm going to come back to what I've said now a couple of times. It's the interior of the offensive line versus the Chiefs' defensive tackles. If the 49ers can mitigate, because you're not winning, if you can mitigate the damage on the interior, they have every shot in the world to win this game because you know what's coming, and Brock Purdy is good enough to execute against that repeatedly. And I think he could have an absolutely monster game if he's allowed to live, which is very much in question going into Sunday.
Wild thought on the way out the door.
Yeah.
This is a wild thought.
Love it.
Granted, very wild.
Let's get wild.
Once again, we're talking about the trade deadline, and people have thrown out some wild stuff, like guys like Max Crosby. We've thrown out Dexter Lawrence. We're talking about foundation piece type players.
Big time guys.
I bring this up because I'm online and I'm looking at an article. It says ranking pass rush.
Wrong there, Larry. You've got
ranking
online.
Pass rush trade targets for the Eagles. Right. This is an Eagles person, and their list includes Dietrich Wise Jr. of the Patriots, Zardarius Smith, Emmanuel Ogbah.
Yep, I've heard Ogba's name a lot.
Who's not doesn't he's big, but he doesn't get a lot of sacks. He's not very quick. Von Miller, his name's on here. Max Crosby's name's on here. Hassan Reddick's name's on here. But the interesting name on here, and one that I've been told by a couple different people, watch this team at the trade deadline, and we've already seen them be active. Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
If Cleveland, this is what it says. If Cleveland wants to get themselves a quarterback in the NFL draft this year, which obviously they need to move on from Deshaun Watson,
no doubt,
and they're wed to him in a big bad way financially. So it says here, if Cleveland wants to get themselves a quarterback in the NFL draft this year, they need to accumulate another first-round pick and more. Trading Garrett, the face of their franchise, would accomplish that goal. He's only 29. He's going to receive a big money extension this offseason, either with the Browns or someone else.
Yeah.
It's going to take him number one, probably two number ones, maybe a 1, a 2, a 3, something like that. It's going to take some high picks.
There's no guaranteed salary.
Myles Garrett's different. Now, Hassan Reddick doesn't really fit the wide 9. He's 237 pounds. Myles Garrett is legitimate 275 and absolutely does fit the wide 9.
Yeah.
And he's such a difference maker. If I could make a deal for him, I would do it. And I'd figure out a way to pay him because I'll cut other guys. I'll cut some other guys. I'll figure out other guys to offload.
I just don't like the fact that Myles Garrett's already 29 years old. I don't like how that makes me feel. The money is not an issue here. He has no guaranteed money on the books after this year. His contract is structured in such a way to where all the money was signing bonus. So the Browns are just doing a bang-up job. Again, just keep it up over there. You're doing great. I would be reluctant to get half a season from one player for a first-round pick. This is this is the caliber of player to where you can at least have, because any player outside of this upper hyper elite echelon, the Nick Bosa echelon, if we're to go through similar players at the position, it's a non-starter. You're getting half a year, and then you got to figure it out for a first-round pick. Like, that's not viable. It'd be absolutely all in. There's something there. And they should explore it fully. I can't imagine it happening, but the fiscal ramifications of a Dexter Lawrence don't apply here. So now it's just a question of, is the cost in draft compensation too rich for a time period which could legitimately be 2 months? That's something the 49ers have to ask themselves. And I think that from our perspective, hell yeah, do it. It's way more interesting, way better content. Yeah. I think it's going to be really tough for the 49ers to move on from a first-round draft pick, given how they need cheap talent coming in, and that's the cheapest, best talent in theory moving forward.
It might be the greatest midseason acquisition in the history of the NFL.
Is it better than McCaffrey?
Well, wait a second. That's not even the best ever. The best ever was when the Niners got Fred Dean. I'm going to play you this real quick before we get out of here. Have we shared the screen on this?
I don't see it.
Okay, you don't see it. Hold on a second. Let me put this back so you can see it. Otherwise, it does no good. Here we go. This is a great little video. Here we go. This is the greatest midseason acquisition of all time, Fred Dean.
Fred Dean was acquired in October in a trade with San Diego.
One of the first times I met Fred, he's laying on a bench in our weight room smoking a cigarette. And I looked down, I said, Fred, what are you doing, man? He says, well, I was thinking about lifting weights, but I thought I might lie here till I got over it.
I remember one time I said something to him at a function one day, and I said, hey, man, Fred, we can't act like that. Fred said, what are you saying? I was like, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Dean. Because I knew that Fred would, if he wanted to, he could take me out. James Dean wasn't cooler than Fred Dean.
Dean's first game as a 49er came in week 6 against Dallas.
And it's not like he got there on Monday morning. He got there during the week, and we're getting ready to play Dallas. And it's like, well, what can he do for our defense against the Dallas Cowboys? We'll have to know our game plan. Well, it's just like, sick him. There's our game plan. Fred, go get that guy.
The whole offensive line of Cowboys say, here he comes, here he comes. He runs a stunt. He runs over the guard. He breaks the center's leg. He sacks Danny White. He does it 3 or 4 times before halftime. We walk in the locker room. He pulls out a pack of Cools. He starts smoking them. The whole team is over there looking at him. Bill Walsh is looking at him.
Inspired by their new kid on the block, the 49ers exacted some revenge on an old bully and improved to 4-2.
He's on his way to the 30, outward in the defense. He'll go all the way. Touchdown. Touchdown for San Francisco's Dwight Clark.
By our standards to that point, it was an ass whipping of biblical proportions. We're putting it on the team in the NFL. We didn't beat them. We beat them up.
Ronnie Lott intercepts. He's in for 6 points for San Francisco.
Man, you can stick your chest out. You can feel good about yourself. And I don't know if anybody's ever had that with the San Francisco 49ers, especially against the Cowboys.
Oh, that is awesome. That day was one of the greatest days in regular season 49ers history. Week 6, 1981 season. Niners and Cowboys at the stick, 45-14 49ers, and it wasn't that close. And Fred Dean was the brand new guy, and he showed up and just sacked the quarterback left and right. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Unbelievable player. What, James Dean wasn't as cool as Fred Dean?
Fred Dean was 235, but he had just ridiculous strength. Ridiculous.
He doesn't look 245. Those shoulder pads said 270, baby.
Seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, that was also it was right
different era, no cap.
Yeah, just they're just out there and just saying, I don't know, go get them. Just go get them. You know, and they switched from a 3-4 to a 4-3, I think, if I remember my books correctly. And they just put them on the end and said, go get them. And it worked
Myles
great.
Garrett and Nick Bosa. What do you think?
It'd be incredible. There'd be no question about that. There wouldn't be any of the questions we asked last year. I guess I just wonder how much reps we'd be able to get Sam O in there if we have Myles Garrett. That'd be a real. No, I'm kidding. It'd be great. Should be noted they spent $20 million on defensive ends. How's that going? We're talking about Myles Garrett.
Seriously. That's the way it is. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Betr. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Check out Dieter. When do you appear next on the leader?
Tuesday next week, Friday. I'll be following you. So thanks for the lead in there, Larry. I'm sure I'll have a massive audience to have to maintain. No pressure at all. Looking forward to that immensely. Hutch and I are going to go live tomorrow at some point. Who's to say when? I think it's like noon. And we're going to get into some real nitty gritty on this game plan. We got some stuff, man. It's breaking my brain. So I'm hoping the audience feels the same thing. And really looking forward to this game on Sunday, Larry. Like I can't tell you, we get that little bit of extra time, that mini bye just gets the juices flowing again. Andy Reid, 32-6. Big opportunity for Kyle Shanahan to get some people off his back. Because if he can win this one, this team's cooking.
Yep. 12-1 is Reid off the bye with Mahomes, by the way.
They might be good.
They might be decent. All right. I won't make a prediction till later, but I hope the Niners win. For Dieter, I'm Larry. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared.